Hello and welcome to Project Home DIY. My name is Christine Glow, the owner, founder, and designer of Your Project Home boxes. Thanks for joining us this month where we get to create a timeless treasure. And holy cow, the quality is amazing in this tongue and groove kit. I am so excited to bring a clock back. We haven't had a clock in nearly 3 years and get asked all the time, I want the clock, I want the clock. So I designed a new different one for you and excited how it comes together. It's a nice 16-inch clock, great numbers, choices that you have on putting it together and what to use. A cool idea, if you do not need a clock, put the piece of wood together, tongue and groove wood, assemble it just as you would the clock, but then you can cover the front with some sort of fun designed paper or a family photo or something cool. So use it as a piece of art rather than a clock if you don't need a clock. So lots of different things to do with this. But today, I'm going to be able to show you, this is our finished clock. And I want to show you this technique of painting, staining, and how to get a clock or any piece of wood to look like that and turn out like that. So I'll be demonstrating that on this clock and just doing a different color scheme. So same kind of technique as before, but very first steps would be to assemble your clock and put it together. So as we can see, assemble or place all the pieces in place, make sure that they are even, all the edges feel good. And then this is the Project Home logo. This is your top piece because it does have the keyhole in it. So this, I'm working backwards. So it's top to you, but it's bottom to me. So this is my top piece and this is the bottom piece. You have to make sure that this top piece is level. And so just make sure that when you place it on the board, it looks very straight. If it's not, then your clock's going to hang crooked. If you feel better, there's a couple ways. If you don't have a level, you can take a tape measure and just make sure that the same measurements on both sides, and then it's centered. And then measure on the top. There's exactly 2 inches right there and exactly 2 inches right there. So that is where it should be. Just in case it moves, take a pencil, draw a line, because we know that that's level. Just in case if anything moves, we can match it all back up. You are given a screwdriver and screws. If you have a drill, you can use that. It's much faster, easier to get this going, but just poke it into the wood and get started placing those pieces. Just for the sake of time, I am going to use a screw gun, drill, whatever you have, just so I can make sure that I can speed this process up a little bit. Okay, do the same thing for the bottom piece, and you can see I held the pieces together by pressing it up against me and then screwing them in. It just kind of helps stabilize it. I put all the screws in place and then go down the line. And actually, I like to start one on the outside, do the 2 outside ones, because then your boards are for sure clamped together. The bottom piece, eyeball, make sure it's straight. It doesn't have to be as straight as the first one. Super simple. You're going to get a little tired if you're using the screwdriver, so easy. One thing I always have with me is a drill for sure. Super handy, easy, time saver. Okay, first thing before I start painting, I'm just going to do a little bit of sanding around the edges. Just removes any little bumps in the wood, anything we got going on. Okay, wipe it off. There we go. All right, and next I'm going to paint a base color of paint. So for example, this clock up here, it was painted a blue first. So if you're trying to learn this technique and see how we do this, paint first, sand, and then stain. So super easy technique, but really cool results from it. I love it. So let me find, there we go. So this is, oh gosh, cotton, I believe, from our starter kit. So it's just a white paint. Just gonna paint it on, not very thick. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I just need some layers of paint to finish and come all the way through. And then we can have the effect of the stained wood come through once we sand and finish it. So don't worry too much about making this perfect. Definitely doesn't have to be. I'm a very sloppy first coat painter. Actually, I only do one coat, but I'm a very first sloppy initial painting, and then I'll go ahead back and fix it all. So it looks like a mess right now. But see, I got it all covered, and now I'll go back and forth over the whole thing and kind of finish it. I'm going to hold it up and do the edges. Edges work really well if you dab. Edges of wood, the grain doesn't take paint as well. So you kind of just mash it in there. And there we go. I'm going to put this in the heater so it can start drying. Okay, that's drying. We can paint the numbers. So think about your finished color. I'm going to stain it with Jacobine. So it's going to be a pretty dark stain. I do want my numbers to pop. So I want to make sure that I choose a paint that is going to accentuate those numbers and get them to really pop. So I'm going with this little like sage greeny color. I think it'll be a fun pop of color to it. This is one of our Project Home paints that came in the quarterly box back in the day. And here's one thing I like to do. My paintbrush still has white paint on it, but I'm still going to use it. And I'm just going to go for it. So this is how I'm going to get these painted, and I just dab. Again, offload my brush and then work my way back. Offloading the brush just means that I'm going to start with a full brush somewhere, just like when you're painting on a wall. You know how they say to make a big W and then work your way back? We're going to do the same exact thing here. So I offload the brush and work my way back to where I offloaded. So this is just paper. Paint will get underneath by the dabbing technique, and so your pieces of wood will automatically stick to it and hold it down while you're painting and dabbing. You don't need a special paper. You don't need anything else. Just dab away. There's a little light color coming through. Gives it a little personality, I would think. I'm not too worried about the sides of the numbers. The board is going to be dark. They'll kind of go with that. It's not that big of a deal. If you want to paint all the sides, you can paint all the sides. Okay, so once I have it all dabbed on, everything's covered well, I will lightly, with a non-loaded brush, just brush over so it smooths it out from the dabbing. And I don't want to use a full brush because then once I drag it along edges, it'll fill the sides with paint, and I don't want that mess. Okay, and there are the numbers. Now, since the paint did get underneath these, it's important to take them off of where you painted so they don't stick to the paper as it dries. Move them onto a dry, clean piece of paper, or even onto something the paint won't stick to at all. It should be kind of like this on my table. If you need to paint a second coat, you can do that after the first one dries about 90%. Once it's about 90% dry, you can do a second coat the exact same way. But for me, that's good. We're just gonna let this paint dry, and we'll be back to start staining. All right, the wood is dry, and I can now sand off parts of where the paint is. You can still see the paint, it's pretty light, but once we sand off parts, get the natural wood exposed, that's where the stain will really soak in. So sand away. Okay, so I've gotten these areas. I just keep focusing on certain areas in there, getting it real raw, back to the natural wood, and that looks pretty darn good. So I'm gonna start staining. Just wipe it off a little bit. Fun thing about the tongue and groove is, like, this groove is a little bit raised, and so it really sands off right there, which is cool. If you stain, wear gloves, just easier cleanup. Much easier. And shake up your stain real good. I just use some Minwax oil-based stain. Again, I'm using Jacobine on this, and I use the white paint. I'm gonna put the stain on its own piece of paper, because I've learned, don't put it on the paper that you're working on, because it will get moved and spill. I just use an old rag, dip it in a little bit. I have no idea what this is gonna look like, and we wipe. Again, kind of like the painting, I put it on real sloppy and I'll go over and finish it real nice. Took 3 little dips and it's stained very quick. Very little use. That little can would last forever for small projects. Okay, and now I'm just going to go back over, and I could use like a drier part of my rag if you want, and wipe it. So it's smooth and even. And go with the grain, not across it. And there is white with Jacobine. Very pretty. So you can stain the back if you want to stain the back. And put my lid on while I'm at it. And let's see what these numbers look like against this. Oh yeah, I like that. I might, nope, I think they're good. With the black cans, it'll be beautiful. So let your stain set up. It's a little oily right now. If you're gluing the numbers, glue won't stick to oil, so we need to let that set up for a little while, probably a few hours. You can place it in front of a heater. That'll promote the oil soaking in, and it'll make it not so long of a wait time to get the numbers on. So next step would be cut out this piece of paper. into a full circle, and we'll place it like this, and then we can place the numbers accordingly. So let your stain dry if that's the technique you chose to do, and then we'll be back to place the numbers. All right, the clock is ready, except for, oh, got it on. Okay, forgot to plug that in, but it was already on. So, all right, the stain is set. Life moment. I had to leave the video. I had a nail appointment. I had to get my nails done, so you're gonna notice I'm not now in pink. It's still the same day. This has just been drying, and during dry time, I went and got my nails done. So you will notice a change in nail color. So just wanted to address that. You're not seeing things. Okay, cut out this clock around the shape. And actually, yeah, we're going to put on the clock mechanism first. So take your clock mechanism pieces. I recommend cutting these open instead of bending the bag at all. You don't want to bend the hands. And I figured this out one time, but let's see if I can do it again. Okay, so you don't need this rubber piece, this rubber black piece. You can set that to the side. You do not need that. And you do not need the gold washer, but you do need the gold nut. So you'll place your clock mechanism in the hole. Make sure it goes all the way through. Okay, and then on the front, take that gold nut, place that, and it just spins on. And you can kind of turn. Okay. If I hold that nut and turn, it'll get tighter, but it's all good to just hand tighten it. Okay, so still have the logo right. This is placed. That's set. Okay, now for the hands, actually I'm going to stop there. So we have that on. Don't put the hands on yet. Take your clock cutout, place that on in the center. So it is directly centered. Now center everything, the 12 and the 6, make sure all that is centered, and that's where you'll place the numbers. So I, on this clock, kept it just 12, 6, 12, 3, 6, and 9. I didn't use the tick marks, but you can use the tick marks if you would like, and those get placed at every one of the lines. So that's how the placement of the numbers go. Place them right where they are marked. So I'm going to sand off a little bit, put a little bit of glue on the back. I'm going to do the 12. I don't like strings. There's the 1. There's the 2. I kind of like just the numbers, or you can add the tick marks too. Okay, there's the 12. There it is without the tick marks. And I think just for demonstration purposes, I will put the marks on just to have them there. So I'm going to do this one at a time and very carefully, because they have to follow the exact same line pattern as the other as the template, or else they won't look right. Okay. There it is, with and without. If you got some hot glue that squirted out of the little, any of the wood, like outside edges, you can take just an X-Acto knife or any type of blade, cut it, and lift it up. Grab that piece out of there. I did on this one. I think the others are good. I didn't see on these. There we go. Okay, last thing is putting on the hands, the clock hands. Let's see, the larger two have a plastic coating over the top so they don't get scratched. Go ahead and pull that off. I have to use. They're nice and clean. Okay, and these clock hands get stacked. So the hour hand goes first. Oops. Goes first, press it on, and right here in the center, push your fingers down. And press it all the way down. Don't press out here, you'll bend it. If it does get bent, just bend it back up so it's even, but press here in the center so it's all the way down at the bottom. Next one is your minute hand, and it's not a full circle. It has two flat ends, the top and the bottom, and that follows the two flat ends, top and bottom, on the clock piece as well. So drop it in on there. Okay, and this little tiny nut with serrated edges is very important for that top, for the minute hand. Screw it on. Doesn't have to be super tight, but tight enough. And then your second hand, just again, right here, press on it only, and just press firmly down in the center. And if you have a battery in, your clock will start. And you can't hear it. It's silent. So that is our clock project. Let's see if I can get it hung. There we go. And I finished it. So enjoy the many things you can do with this. July is kind of wedding season. Imagine what a great gift it could be if you created this. Put the couple's initials, established date on that clock, and what a cool gift that could be. So many possibilities of outdoor spaces in your kitchen, in your home, shop, anywhere. So enjoy this timeless treasure, and thank you for joining us, and see you next month. Bye.